Well, Jeremy Jones, how are you today and where are you today?
I am doing very well. Thanks for asking. And I am at my home in Truckee, California.
Big day today. The trailer for this new film, Purple Mountains, is just getting released. And I think what we're going to go ahead and do here is take a look at this trailer. So let's do that now.
This land that is ours together is a great and a good land. It is in that spirit that I address myself to those great issues facing our nation which are above partisanship.
The environment was not a divisive issue. I definitely never thought of myself as an environmentalist. 2, 3. But my whole life is committed to the mountains. I saw changes to the mountains, and it coincided with what scientists were telling me.
This isn't about science. It's not about facts.
Climate change is the most divisive issue in the United States.
I think your question, it presupposes that a warming climate is bad.
Your climate agenda is totally wrong.
When people tell you that the climate's changing, we're causing it, it's meaningless.
Screaming total out of this world goddamn lie.
How do we get there?
The climate talk gets lumped into a bunch of other policies and the liberal agenda.
Politics has become a game recently.
100%.
Just like high school, we have our little social groups and we want to fit in.
The reason we're confused and divided is because the fossil fuel industry has been trying deliberately to confuse and divide us.
The truth is that climate change is impacting everyone.
The alarms are everywhere. We are running out of time. Half the country is poking holes in the science when we need 100% of the people figuring out solutions.
I'm not opposed to someone proving me wrong. I just want to see it presented to me in a fashion that seems credible.
It's all about how can we get everyone as mad at each other as possible? I want to do this. I think if you step back...
Drop it, baby.
We're all on the same team. We're on Team Planet Earth.
I want to start actually with the title, Purple Mountains. I think it's kind of a fitting title for this film, but how did you get there?
I got there because we've realized that there are these half a dozen, say, key states that aren't dark red, aren't dark blue, but purple, that where this election inevitably is going to be decided. And then I seen plenty of beautiful sunsets. Actually, the first night we were camping in winter camping in Nevada, we were coming back late, and the mountains actually went purple. Mm-hmm. And my buddies are like, "What the hell, man? Here you go. You set out. You're telling me you're making this film, Purple Mountains, and the mountains just went totally purple on us." So that was a nice omen.
I think one of the really fundamental things about this film is kind of bringing together red states and blue states and red communities and blue communities. And it's getting that purple is a spot where we kind of need to get to. So well done on that title.
Thank you. Yes. Totally. That song, a very patriotic song. And how do you make purple? Red, white, and blue. Mm-hmm. It's not all, you don't get to purple without all those colors, and that's our flags. So.
Yeah. Yep. So one of the things that I think that trailer is really good, but I'm not sure that this really important aspect gets conveyed in the full film. And I think it's a critical element, which is this conversational nature, right? I mean, the whole thing, and why I think this film is really important, is it doesn't start with some idea that we're just going to preach to the choir now, and that's ever going to be adequate. I think if we've learned anything over the past 40, 50 years of American history, if not longer, is that we've really got to build more of a consensus here. And I think that I found myself really taken aback at, I think we've sort of lost the art of how to talk to people who aren't exactly living with the exact same belief set as you might have or as I might have. And I think that an important element of this film is you going through just some different conversations with folks. When did that become evident to you? Or, I mean, did you very much think about this film very much with that in mind? Like, let's just put on camera people having conversations, and maybe they aren't all exactly in the same political space or in the exact same position in terms of energy or the like.
Yeah, well said. And I would say we recognize, for one, at Protect Our Winters, we call it the outdoor state, 50 million strong, people that really identify with the outdoors. And I think it's, we maybe have different views on climate change or climate action or what have you, but we can all agree on, like, yes, a healthy environment, we all stand behind. And I think that at Protect Our Winters, as we realize that these, say, purple states are critical for this election, I just had the realization of, like, I gotta go spend time there. Like, me sitting in my little blue bubble in California with like-minded people complaining about the other side is just not getting it done. And so really seeking out people where we have a lot in common, not everything in common, and having conversations about that and not being afraid to do that.
Yeah. I think that sense of going one-on-one and going in person with someone, it was so interesting. And the film does such a nice job of this, of, going up and talking with people who are very staunchly on the opposite side of some of these issues as you are. And yet it's just interesting in these actual interactions that it's like the humanity comes back into the conversation.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this. I mean, your own social channels, maybe more than anybody else's in the outdoor industry, is kind of sometimes, well, the opposite of that, right?
Not the greatest display of humanity.
It's not the greatest display of humanity.
In the comment section, I might add.
Yeah. I found myself thinking a lot that I really do feel like maybe we've lost this art of how to converse with people. And as we are in an age where more and more things are happening online and there are comment sections kind of everywhere, I think that we need to see that behavior modeled more. By parents, by our politicians, by athletes, by any leaders, by all of us. But and I don't know. I mean, that's starting to get at a bigger, much bigger, and I think more fundamental issue. And I don't know if you have been thinking about that same thing, or if you were like, well, this was my answer, put this up in this film and just literally show these different conversations. How much of that hits or connects with what the actual motivation was for going into this film?
Yeah, you touch on a lot of things there, but I think if, like, we all are consuming a lot more media, we're all getting curated media sent to us. The algorithms have shown that the more upset we get, the more we click. Yeah. So depending on what platform you're on, they've incentivized, like, getting us angry. Mm-hmm. The conversations, the comment section, say, in my social media, it's like, it's just, I don't think the written word is really angry. I don't think it's we're putting our best foot forward in those areas as society. And I really was like, man, I wonder if like some of the people will maybe never see eye to eye. I mean, I don't want to get too far into that deal, but some of them like, man, this person really likes to snowboard. They think I am like the world's worst human on the planet because I want clean air, clean water, and a sustainable planet. And I'm like, I would love to just have a conversation in the mountains with them and see how that goes. And that's really the root of what I was hoping to do with this film.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's kind of mission accomplished in that sense of you do see it where people are like, hey, you seem like a good guy, and then where it looks like, and especially maybe in comment sections or something, where it goes from you're the worst and you're an idiot, you actually kind of have to start with like, oh, we both actually care about a lot of the same things. You actually seem like a pretty good guy. And turns out we're not as located on absolute opposite ends of the spectrum on so many things. And, there was a comment that came up at least once or twice in the film where sometimes people were saying, well, I actually have a lot of shared opinions on some of the climate issues and energy issues, but I don't like the way that it seems like we start bundling in a bunch of other issues. Yeah. And I kind of was like, you know what? That's fair. I'm afraid I don't have the best answer for how we change that political landscape, but I grant that point, right? Do you have thoughts on this, or what are you seeing that either gives us grounds to be like, look, we don't have a lot to be optimistic about because we do see this kind of bundled world right now? Or are you in conversations, maybe in the work you're doing in DC, where you're like, actually, there are rays of hope here?
Yeah, I mean, the harsh reality is it's like, so I go and spend some time with, in one of the most conservative districts in a purple state, neighboring state, Nevada. Mm-hmm. And really, quite frankly, hit it off with, these are great people. We absolutely agree on way more than we disagree on, but it's like, they listen to a different radio station than I do. Their TV's on a different deal than mine. And it's like the ultimate goal, if you are a big industry, is to try to get to identity politics. And sadly, climate change has reached that like identity politics of, say, guns or what have you, where it's like, there is no way I am switching colors because this issue matters. Mm-hmm. So what we really need is, because sadly it's like we would agree on a bunch of stuff in these conversations, and then the mics would come off and be like, well, there's no way I'm not, like I am absolutely dark red down the line because they're going to take my guns away or what have you. And so what we really need is it not to be this political issue, and to protect our winners from day one. We've said we are a bipartisan group that supports leaders that want real action on climate. And we are seeing some change to the Republican stance on climate. And we just need to see more because, and it's tough to say, if that's coming or not, if it's just language, but ideally what's killing real climate action is that it's a political issue. And if you're on the red team or the blue team, you have to stay in the lane, and very few people cross the aisle on that.
We got to figure this one out. I mean, and I don't know that it's going to figure itself out, right? And one related question, though, is we're talking about this like art of conversation and how we go about meaningfully engaging with people who don't think exactly the same way we do, which when you say that out loud, it's like, wow, I mean, who would want to only talk to people that think exactly like that? Sounds terrifying and like an awful world. I did want to ask you, I think when Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor of California, he had, I thought, a pretty interesting, I'm sure there were other people that have made the argument, but he was maybe one of the ones with the highest profile, where he was really interested in sort of getting people to talk more about pollution than like climate change in particular. And to be honest, I kind of resonate with a number of the points he's making, right? And I wondered how much you've thought about that, how you do think about this these days. Maybe if you think that there are reasons why it actually is more appropriate than maybe Governor Schwarzenegger at the time was suggesting, to like, let's not lose the language of climate change just to talk about pollution today. But I just wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think if you look at the language and discussions in the film, or we really try to frame the issue as clean air, clean water, and a healthy planet for future generations. And because that's really what we're fighting for. Pollution is a major issue. It's a major health issue. And who doesn't want clean air and clean water and leave their kids with the planet better than they found it? And so the words climate change have become this like, divisive wording, but clean water, clean air is not.
That's right. Yeah. Have you found, I mean, you've been doing this a long time. Have you found that you've been in specific conversations, either some of these one-on-one conversations you've been having, or perhaps when you've been in DC, where simply by changing the language a little bit, you do start to connect differently with people?
Absolutely. It's, there's certain words that really get under people's skins. And then again, it's about like, when we go to Capitol Hill, it's like 70% of our meetings are with moderate Republicans that we think can maybe, they're the keys to us going all in as a country on, embracing this clean energy future. And so we do everything we can, and, walking in their office, oh my God, I love, generally or with people from that region, they got pictures on the wall of mountains. There's probably someone in the room that's climbed that mountain, so we try to really connect on it from the landscapes and again, a healthy outdoors.
Mm-hmm. Related issue. You talk about in the film, it comes up that politics has kind of turned into sports or entertainment, right? And I found myself thinking so much in recent years, like, I just want really boring, smart, respectable politicians. Like, I want vanilla and mundane. And honestly, what I found myself thinking is like, I don't want to hate like the other side.
Yeah.
And what's it going to take for us to get into a culture where it's like, okay, whatever team I'm on, those are my folks. And I disagree perhaps on some of the policies with the other side, but they're good people. They're respectable people. They're smart people. It just feels like we're so far away from this right now. And I don't know how we change that culture, aside from maybe starting to just collectively do our best to vote in respectable people, again, wherever you fall on the spectrum. But like, I'm like, does this just sound like some fairy tale land? Or what are your thoughts on this? I mean, what the idea of going back to a boring, like letting politics be boring.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking like basic civility of like, that reaching across the aisle. I mean, I think as a country, we can look at some of the greatest things we've done is when people have reached across the aisle and come together on issues and respecting each other. And the reality is like, it's all about this like soundbite, 140 character, almost like shock politics going on right now. And I don't know. I think it's just going to take just a really special leaders. I think is that it's so. I mean, you can do like I've given enough talks. Like I know how to get a crowd riled up. You know, you start like really degrading another side to that one side that has those strong views. They get really excited, and I guess for me, it's just. That's not who I am as a person. And when we went into this film and talking to these professional climate skeptics and stuff, it's like instead of going in like they're professional debaters. They do it all day long. They're soundbite machines and they're moving so fast. I'm like, I am not going to out debate this person. And so I'm like, playing games in myself, like I wonder if I can like find areas that I can agree on with this person that like is so much of their work makes me sick to my stomach because it's it has such a it's just not they want the opposite of what I want and so it was a challenge. I mean, we as much as like we would go like push them on this issue, it's not who I am. Like I can find common ground with almost anyone. And I can't play that. I don't ever want to get drawn into this area where I lose like cordial discourse with people. And now mind you, I love a good debate. I mean, you come to the Jones family dinner table at Christmas, and I mean, there's a lot of, loud debating going on at the table, but it's still cordial and civil.
Well, and I think this has got to be one of the things, right? If you've already got, now you're talking about a family, right? Literally your family. Yeah. Well, you already have that level of trust and respect and love. And when you start there, turns out you kind of are freed up to be like, that's an idiotic idea. And here's why. And you're not, that person isn't directly attacking you. But I think what we are in a culture of right now is more and more we are talking to strangers. There literally has been no connection yet. And at that point, right, it's just, when you disagree with me, now it's different. Like you are coming after me. It's right. I mean, this is a dynamic I don't think we're talking enough about in like any walk of society. And I find that really troubling because that means we're like doing humanity badly, right? Yeah. Like we're living badly. We've lost how to talk. And if we don't correct that, none of this other stuff is getting corrected.
Yeah. I think one big thing for me that's been important is to understand what has created these people with opposing views on climate. There's a podcast Drilled that goes back to the early memos from the fossil fuel industry on like, hey, this is a problem. We need to address it. We need to get people, on a different narrative. They focused on certain demographics in certain regions and have done this. They invented the advertorial where every week they do an article in there explaining, looks like real editorial stuff, but it's paid for. So they've been very effective at creating these angry climate deniers. And it's I mean, now I spot them and I'm like, oh, they're all in the same age demographic. They're all white. They're all, a lot of them from these similar regions. And so I understand what created these people and made them so angry and have such different views than me. So then I'm no longer just think they're these horrible humans. Again, they're consuming this advertorial denial campaign information, and it works. You spend that much money for that many years, and you're going to get some people really fired up and supporting your false narrative, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Do you have thoughts about what's our way around that? Like, how do we break that culture? Or is it, do we think that's just going to be the way? There's going to continue to be that till the end of time. So what's our best approach? What do we do?
Well, youth is a huge thing. Where I get optimism is in this 18 to 35-year-old, traditionally not a great voting turnout demographic, which is why when you see a politician in Congress or talking on TV, they traditionally are talking to a 65 to 85-year-old person, because those are their voter turnout is incredible. And they know that's how they're getting reelected. They're not afraid of 20-year-olds voting traditionally. They're not working for 25-year-olds. They have no concern on what a 25-year-old thinks. Now, through, at Protect Our Winners, which is why we use these athletes and influencers, and why it's on social media where these younger demographics are, if we can get them to turn out the vote, we know just saying the word vote and getting a new voter to vote, there's a 80 to 90% chance they're going to vote how we want them to. And that's where my optimism comes from. Because those kids are more, that demographic is way more plugged in than I was at 22, 24 years old. And I think that they understand that they better get active, and they are.
Yep. Yeah. So thinking about your own goals, and this can be kind of your own personal, or maybe this ties into just Protect Our Winners goals. We've got an election coming up. And then how much you're thinking about right now, which you've just said, like, we want to mobilize younger people, get them plugged in, get them voting, let them be heard. Is that kind of the one goal and only goal right now? Like, is this a time for you to just be like laser focused on that? Or how are you thinking about many of the huge issues that we've just touched on in the last few minutes here? And your kind of priorities for yourself and for Protect Our Winners?
Yeah, my focus right now absolutely is to get that traditional non-voter, or say moderate, to say, you know what, we need to act on climate right now, and I'm inspired to vote. So that's my it's kind of like we're climbing a mountain, and over the next 60 days, like, we're looking at this major crux of November 3rd, and how can we gather as much info and set ourselves up for success to kind of pull through that crux and do it safely. So, and also, as we talk about it, Protect Our Winners, this 50 million outdoor enthusiasts also aren't traditionally great voters. Mm-hmm. And so getting through that, and it's the voting thing, and as I'm sure, people will be like, I get it, I'm going to vote, but it's really hard to get a non-voter to vote. It's really hard to protect our winners in 2018. We put a ton of energy in first getting people out to pledge to vote, where they'd have to kind of sign up or send themselves a postcard or do all, state and go through this process to pledge to vote and then ideally vote. The fall off, we had only 30% of those people that said, I'm going to vote, actually went out and voted. So it's this very challenging. And then you add in the pandemic, which is making voting more tricky than ever before. And then not by chance, it's really complicated in these purple states, which is why this Make a Damn Plan POW tool is so critical, because it literally it walks you through to the point where all of a sudden you need a printer, we come in, we can print that for you. You need a stamp, we have a stamp for you. We can make sure that you can vote.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Let's say you're happy with the way the election goes. I'm curious if you have clear thoughts about what that means for POW's directive at that point. And then, of course, the flip question. If we don't get out and we screw up, and those of us saying, yep, we're going to vote, and we don't, have you already thought through both of those scenarios and how you would react in either event?
So again, to put it into mountain climbing terms, we're entering this no fall zone.
Fair.
So there's really, and we can't turn around.
Yep.
Up is the only way of survival. And so I'm really good at compartmentalizing that duty at hand. Yep. So we are laser focused on that to have success November 3rd. Moving forward, it's not that election went where we want it to go. I mean, we still need to push for action, and because it's one of the, in say 10 years from now, are we going to say, oh, you know what, we overreacted on this climate stuff, and now we have a bunch of clean energy, the air's cleaner, the water's cleaner.
Right.
We probably could have backed off on that. Or are we going to say, damn, I wish we did more sooner?
Yeah.
And hopefully it's the second, but that would be a great mistake to have. But I mean, we're in a climate emergency, and that's the frustrating thing is the reality is we are on this 30-year track to move off of fossil fuels. It's just economically becoming less and less viable. The cheapest form of energy is clean energy. If you want to bring new energy online right now, we're going there. It's smart business. It's creating a bunch of jobs. It's making a bunch of people a lot of money. That's the optimism. We have so many of the solutions. But we're fighting this antiquated system that is the most powerful industry on the planet, that is trying to just reap every last ounce of profit at the cost of a healthy planet for future generations. And we just need to speed that up, because it is, we're in the 11th hour on this.
Yep. I accept that answer of we're in a no-fall zone, because in a no-fall zone, you're not thinking 3 moves down the line. I actually think that's real fair. Before I let you get going, circling back to Purple Mountains, I'd be interested to hear a little more about just any particularly memorable moments that were either captured, on air in the film, or that were kind of off camera, but I don't know. It's a really interesting thing you did, just to go around and have some like cordial conversations. And I don't know, anything stand out, and any moments stand out to you when you reflect back on some of those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's not in the film, I guess, like a good little bit of an origin story. So the first trip I went out to rural Nevada, I'm like, we just got to get in the mountains and try to meet people at the trailhead or what have you. And so I go out with Tim Eddy, Max Hammer, Gray Thompson, Ming Poon. We go out for a winter camping trip, and we're getting our stuff ready. And I'm just like trying to find people at the trailhead to like make a connection to before I go into the mountains. That's where we meet who I consider the star of the film, this guy Danny, who's a hard rock coal miner, awesome split boarder, and we get talking. He ends up hiking with us that day as we're moving deeper into the mountains for camp. And so we have a good trip, and then I get his number. I'm like, sweet, that was good. I have a great day with him just getting to camp. Like 3 or 4 days later, we're coming out of the mountains. We're definitely beat up, and we got a car up the road, and we're hitchhiking to try and get it and what have you. But and it's getting dark out, and we're like, just look for any skiers or snowboarders. And my buddy gets the car. He's like, oh, there's these women coming down that were backcountry skiing, and look for them. And I'm like waiting for them, and they come by, and I like flag them down and like, hey, what's up? You guys live around here? And I'm like totally having this conversation. I'm like, have you ever heard of Protect Our Winters? And I'm like, where do you guys hang out? And can I get your phone number? And I'm just like trying to find like a footprint in the area of deal. And then they're like, oh, we're going to this bar for this is where like we all hang out, is at this bar at the bottom of the pass. And so come hang out, and we go, and one of the women in the film is one of these backcountry skiers. But so we go to the bar, and I mean, you pull up, and there's a Trump flag outside. There's antlers with a Trump hat on, and I'm a vegan as well, and we're joking, and like, God, I don't know if there's anything to eat there, and we pull in there, but they could tell we just got out of the mountains, and they're like psyched on. They're like, oh, these guys they learn what we do, and these guys, they're in Trump hats. Fox News on the TV the whole time, and it's just Trump, 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 and we joke, we're like, oh, there'll probably be a vegetarian burger on the menu, so they know who to kick out of the place. And so I'm like, can I have the vegetarian burger? And the woman, like hardcore older woman, she's like, oh yeah, it's great, I'm a vegan. And I'm like, it's just an example of like, oh, and I have this like incredible veggie vegan burger. We totally hit it off with these guys. We end up drinking beers for a long time, get a bunch of phone numbers. And that's really like the, where we first made these connections to these people who have become friends of ours.
That's great.
But the fear of just walking into a bar is with a Trump flag on it, and that deal it shouldn't be that scary. And inevitably it was not. There was, we had a great night with them.
That's great. Man, if we're going to take anything away from this stupid year, I sure hope that we're going to judge fewer books by their cover. And I do hope at least that we are in a time where more and more stories are being told. Hopefully people will be willing and eager to have more conversations. And we just got to break down some of these prejudices, some of these biases, be willing to walk up to a fellow human being. How you doing? What's going on? And it's such a basic thing to say, but man, if we did gain some of that and some empathy maybe, and got out of this stupid year with that elevated, well, maybe 2020 can be remembered on a higher note, in some ways. But I think that gets kind of to the heart of what you lay out and demonstrate in Purple Mountains. And I'm really excited for people to see this, because like I said, I still come back to, I think that it is really critical in our society, and probably in a lot of others around the world. We have got to see more modeling of this behavior of how to talk to people and how to interact. And if the comment sections aren't demonstrating this very well, then we've got to find some other folks modeling this for us. And I think Purple Mountains is one step in that direction. And I got to say, while it's really fun watching you snowboard down gnarly lines in some of your other films, this one in a way stands out among all of your films for me, because I just don't see a lot of this going on. So thank you.
On many reasons. First, like, am I really making a movie that really has very little snowboarding, and I have to like carry it as this actor, or not actor, but like main person character? Like, I'm putting on a different hat than I normally put on. And in the past, we make these movies and we're like, all right, that's been enough talking. Just show the guy almost dying and wake, so with some Metallica, and wake up the audience. Right. And with this, we can't go there. But I will say, I did wish I had more time to meet more people. The pandemic, kept us out of, I was really looking forward to go to the Midwest. And, but for me, for sure, I've learned a lot in the making of it, and will, continue to talk to people with, wearing a different color than, maybe on a different team than I am, and find that common ground. We need to, as you said at the beginning, Team Planet Earth, man. We're not getting there without together, and this whole bickering back and forth, it's counterproductive, and it's one way or another. We not only as a country, but as a planet, need to get moving in the right direction on climate action.
Yeah. The film comes out September 16th. People can find the film where?
You can find the film on purplemountainsfilm.com. It's also linked in my social profile, Protect Our Winners, what have you.
Great. Well, Jeremy, thank you. Excited for people to see this, and sounds like you're going to be busy between now and I'm guessing November 3rd. And sure hope people go actually vote for the things you care about and believe in. And let's be heard. I think that's how democracy is supposed to work. We're supposed to go way in. So let's do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Love the show, and honored to be part of it.
Well, thank you. And we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.